amendments. Mr. Adderholt recognized.
Yes, so I've got an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will
And an
read.
amendment offered by Mr. Adderholt.
Ask for unanimous consent to be considered
The
read.
gentleman's recognized from Alabama.
This is, I understand, the fifth year that this amendment has been offered. It's already had a very positive impact. Let me just, since we spent the reading, let me just tell you an overview of this amendment I'm offering with my colleague, Mr. Visklosky. It closes a Buy American loophole that is currently in the Interior Appropriations Bill that would severely undermine the existing American iron and steel procurement preference. In short, the underlining bill would, without this amendment, would permit our water infrastructure to be constructed with iron and steel from China, Russia, or other foreign countries, bypassing the American workers and companies. Not, as I mentioned, that we've already seen good results that we've seen over the past 5 years with this legislation. It has retained good manufacturing jobs here in America. We've seen an uptick in jobs. There's been a process that we're seeing as reshoring, where we've seen advantages of domestic preference. The alternative is to bring in steel and iron made overseas. The question is, why would we want to spend taxpayer dollars to put profits and usable cash in the hands of countries who are frequently probing our national defense capabilities? We need to encourage steelmaking competition here in America and create jobs here at home. Most of us remember that back last April of this year, President Trump signed the Buy American executive order, which addressed this issue by including a definition of produced in the United States for iron and steel that is consistent with the EPA current policy. However, there is language in this bill that is not consistent with the President's executive order, and therefore the amendment that I have before you would create jobs here in America through this Buy America provision, and I would ask my colleagues to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Adderholt. Chairman Calvert.
Thank you. It's my duty to come out against Mr. Adderholt's amendment during the Buy America week, but I rise in opposition to the gentleman's amendment. We tend to think of Buy America provisions as pro-U.S. jobs. It's not that simple. Many U.S. companies have global processes that rely on inputs and materials from overseas. And many U.S. products also originate in the United States, are shipped beyond the U.S. border for value-added process, and then return to the United States for additional manufacturing, distribution, and sale. The language of the amendment before us has been narrowly interpreted by the administration. I believe the administration drew an arbitrary process line in the sand, which negatively impacts jobs in my area in California. In my district alone, nearly 1,000 jobs are negatively affected by this narrow interpretation, and these jobs indirectly support another 6,500 jobs, a company called California Steel in Fontana, California. As a result, we end up having a process debate about whether U.S. workers are melting or pouring or hot rolling iron steel in America. That's entirely too cumbersome. Since 1933, the Buy America Act has protected domestic workers from unfair foreign competition. It's a standard that governs procurements by the Department of Defense, General Service Administration, and the Federal Aviation Administration. And that standard is what the base bill supports. We need to adopt policies that foster innovative thinking, economic growth for all, rather than adopt a restrictive policy that promotes some opportunities for a few. I appreciate the gentleman is offering his amendment based on his constituents, and I included language in the base bill to support my constituents. A no vote is on the amendment levels the playing field for all U.S. manufacturing jobs. It's my hope that the members will continue to work with me to find flexibility with this policy so we can support all U.S. jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calvert. Ms. Roby is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I certainly respect the Chairman's position, but this amendment does support manufacturing. I rise in support of Mr. Adderholt's amendment. It's important that this committee continue to retain the American iron and steel provision so that economic benefits resulting from its inclusion go back to the fiscal year 2014 are not lost. The administration has made American workers and manufacturing a priority, and I believe we should continue our support as well. I'm proud to represent a state alongside Mr. Adderholt with a strong iron and steel industry, and I'm proud to go to bat on behalf of the workers that industry supports. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. Mr. Amade is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish to associate myself with the remarks of the Interior Subcommittee Chairman. I think this is the third year that we've gone through this, and sadly, I remember conversations about working on this so we don't have to keep doing this, and if it was my job to initiate those, I guess I should apologize publicly, and if it was supposed to be a bilateral effort, then I find myself a little bit disappointed once again. I think back to 3 years ago when we offered an amendment to clean up some of this language, and it was adopted bipartisan. I just think it picks winners and losers in the marketplace and has very little to do with Buy American. Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Amade, Mr. Adderholt to close, if you wish. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Oskowski, excuse
Thank
me.
you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise in strong support of Mr. Adderholt's amendment. I would reflect upon the comments of the chair, however. He is not incorrect. Nothing we do in this committee is perfect. There are always unintended outcomes. And I would point out that I have a fair number of integrated steel facilities in the 1st Congressional District of Indiana, many of which import steel to fabricate in the 1st Congressional District. I attach a great deal of national defense interest in this amendment, however, because the chairman also mentioned the issue of pouring steel. Someday, if those companies are no longer here, and as I had last year, a list of 43 steel companies that are no longer with us, we can't pour that steel. We're going to be importing that steel from an adversary for that 50,000 tons for that next nuclear aircraft carrier. We need to maintain that ability. I strongly support Mr. Adderholt's amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Oskowski. Mr. Adderholt, a minute to close.
Well, let me just simply say that, it's always difficult when you have one of your fellow chairmen of the appropriation where you disagree, but this is one of those that I do think there is a loophole, and I think that most of our constituents would want us to use the tax dollars to Buy American, and that's why I would ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
Questions on the Adderholt amendment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.